When I married Alex, I believed my life would become joyful. I dreamed of love, a caring family, and a peaceful home. But things didn't turn out that way. After the wedding, I moved into his family's house. It was a large home in Seattle. His parents lived there along with his sister. First, I felt excited. I thought they would treat me like their own family. But I was mistaken. They never truly accepted me. From the very first week, I could feel it. They hardly spoke to me. They never asked how I was doing. They only talked to me when they needed something. Alex's mother often looked at me with cold, unfriendly eyes. She always told me how to cook, how to clean, and even how to dress. No matter what I did, it was never enough. One day, I washed all the dishes and cleaned the kitchen. She looked at the floor and said, "You missed a spot." She never once said thank you. Alex didn't say a word. He told me it was normal. He said I should ignore it. But I couldn't. It hurt every single day. I felt like I was living in a house where I didn't belong. His sister, who was younger than me, spent most of her time in her room watching shows or talking on the phone. When she came out, she mocked my clothes and said I looked too plain. I smiled and stayed quiet. I didn't want to argue, but inside I felt small and invisible. I had no friends in that house. I had no voice. Cooked for them. I did the laundry. I helped with everything. Yet I felt like a ghost. There was only one person who made me feel different. His name was Peter. Peter was Alex's father. He was calm and quiet. He didn't talk much, but his smile was kind. He always looked at me when I entered the room. He always said, "Good morning, Emma." Just hearing my name made me feel warm inside. He asked if I had slept well. He asked if I needed any help. His voice was gentle, and he spoke to me like I truly mattered. Peter had some health issues. He had high blood pressure and stayed home most of the time. He liked to sit near the window in the living room and drink tea in the morning. One day, I brought him tea without anyone asking. He looked surprised, then smiled. "Thank you, Emma," he said. "That's the first time someone in this house has thanked me." I almost cried. After that, I started bringing him tea every morning. We talked a little each time. Sometimes he spoke about the weather. Sometimes he asked how my day was going. It wasn't much, but it was more than anyone else had ever offered me. Slowly, I began to feel safe around him. I started looking forward to those few minutes each morning. They became the best part of my day. One day, while I was cleaning the kitchen, Alex's mother walked in. She frowned at me and said, "You're too slow. Do it faster next time." I kept my head down and stayed silent. But after she left, I sat on the floor and cried. I cried quietly so no one would hear me. But Peter heard. He came in a few minutes later. He didn't ask why I was crying. He just sat beside me on the small bench. Then he said, "I see you, Emma. You're trying your best. Don't let their words bring you down." His words broke something inside me. I wanted to hug him, but instead I just nodded and wiped my tears. From that day on, Peter became more than just my father-in-law. He became my friend. He was the only one who noticed my pain. The only one who made me feel human. I started cooking his favorite meals. I gave him his medicine on time. I made sure he had clean socks and warm tea. I did these things with love, not because I had to, but because I truly wanted to. Alex didn't notice. He was always busy with work. He came home late, ate dinner, scrolled through his phone, and went straight to bed. He never asked how I was feeling. He never thanked me for anything. Sometimes I wondered if he even loved me at all. But I stayed silent. I didn't want to create conflict. I kept telling myself things would improve. Hope for change. Then something unexpected happened. One morning I brought Peter his tea, but he didn't look up. He was sitting in his chair, gripping the armrest tightly. His face looked pale. I rushed over. "Peter," I said. He slowly turned to me. "I don't feel well," he whispered. I immediately called Alex. He was still getting ready for work. "Dad isn't okay," I told him. "He needs to go to the hospital." Alex looked annoyed. "It's probably nothing," he said. He'll be fine. But I didn't wait. I called a taxi and took Peter myself. I held his hand the entire ride. At the hospital, the doctor said Peter's blood pressure was too low. He needed rest and someone to stay with him. So I stayed. I didn't leave his side all day. Alex came later after lunch. He stayed for just 10 minutes and left. His mother didn't come at all. Peter looked at me from his hospital bed and gave a weak smile. "Thank you," he said. "You're the only one who cares." I felt my eyes fill with tears. "You looked after me," I said gently. "Now it's my turn to care for you." He closed his eyes and rested. I sat beside him, holding his hand. I wasn't his real daughter, but in that moment it felt like I was. That night I returned home alone. The house was quiet. No one asked about Peter. No one asked how I was. I stood in the kitchen looking around. I felt so tired of giving love and getting nothing in return. But even in that sadness I felt grateful. Grateful for one person, Peter. He wasn't just my father-in-law. He was the only one who truly cared. Before I continue with the rest of my story, I just want to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone is truly hearing me, understanding me, gives me strength. Peter stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Every morning I visited him. I brought fresh clothes and warm soup in a small container. I sat by his side and helped him eat. I made sure he took his medicine. The nurses often smiled at me. One of them said, "He's lucky to have you." I smiled back, though I felt tears inside. I wasn't sure if I was lucky too. Alex only came in the evenings. He never brought anything. He stayed on his phone most of the time. He asked Peter how he was doing, but didn't wait for the answer. Then he left. One night while driving home I asked, "Why don't you talk to your father more?" He shrugged and said, "He's fine. You worry too much." His voice was cold. He didn't understand. When Peter came back home, I arranged a comfortable chair for him near the window. I brought him tea and soft blankets. I placed his medicine neatly on a small tray. I asked if he'd like to listen to some music. He smiled and said, "Only if it's slow music." Smiled too. Just sitting beside him felt like home. But not everyone was happy about it. Alex's mother started complaining more. "Why are you always sitting with him?" she snapped one day. "Do you think he's the king of this house?" Her tone was sharp. I said nothing. I just smiled and walked away. I overheard her talking behind my back once while I was in the kitchen. "She acts like a nurse," she said, "but she's still just my son's wife." I held the spoon in my hand a little tighter, but I didn't say a word. Peter noticed everything too. One morning he looked at me and said, "I know it's hard, Emma." I gave a small smile and replied, "It's okay." He shook his head slowly. "No, it's not okay. But you are strong." That one small sentence gave me strength for the entire day. Weeks went by. Peter began to feel better. He started walking around the house again. He helped me water the small plants outside. We talked about simple things, about the clouds, old movies on TV, and the neighbor's dog that barked too much. Life felt lighter whenever he was near. But things with Alex kept getting worse. He stayed out late. Sometimes he wouldn't come home until midnight. One day I asked him, "Where were you?" He replied, "Out with friends." Don't ask too many questions. There was a wall between us. A cold, silent wall I couldn't break through. He stopped asking about my day. He wouldn't even look at me when we talked. I felt like a stranger again. One evening, I waited for him at dinner. I made his favorite meal, simple chicken rice. But he didn't show up. I waited for an hour. Called him. No answer. Called again. This time he picked up and said, "I'm busy. Don't wait for me." Then he hung up. I sat at the table and ate by myself. Peter walked in and sat across from me. He looked at the food and said, "It smells good." I gave him a plate. We ate quietly together. That moment became the best part of my day. The next morning I found a small gift on the kitchen table. It was a warm scarf. Light blue, my favorite color. There was no note, but I knew it was from Peter. No one else knew what I liked. I held the scarf close to my face and smiled. But the peace didn't last. Alex started getting angry more often. He yelled over little things. One day, I forgot to place his socks in the drawer. He shouted, "You stay home all day. Can't you even do this?" I stood silently. My hands felt cold. My heart beat fast. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. Peter saw the argument. Later that night he came to me. He sat beside me and said, "I'm sorry, Emma. You don't deserve this." I looked at him and said quietly, "I feel so alone." He didn't say much. He just held my hand and let me sit in silence. Then winter arrived. The days became short and dark. Peter got sick again. He coughed often and had trouble breathing. Called the doctor. They gave him new medicine. I made hot soup and sat by his side every day. I kept his room warm and sometimes read to him. He loved old stories. His voice was weak, but his heart stayed strong. He never complained. He never made me feel like I wasn't enough. One day he looked at me and softly said, "You are the daughter I never had." I couldn't hold back my tears. I walked into the kitchen and cried into my hands. One night Peter looked very tired. I helped him to bed and gave him some water. He held my hand and whispered, "Thank you, Emma. You made my life better." I wanted to speak, but my voice broke. So I just said, "I love you, Peter." He closed his eyes and smiled. The next morning I woke up early to check on him. I brought a cup of warm tea. But he didn't wake up. He was still. His hand felt cold. I dropped the cup. It shattered on the floor. I ran to Alex. I called his name loudly. He came in slowly. He looked at Peter and said, "He's gone." He nodded. My voice couldn't speak. He stood there for a moment, then walked away. I sat on the floor beside Peter and cried. That day felt like the longest day of my life. People came and went. No one noticed me. No one asked how I was feeling. They only talked about the funeral. I sat quietly in a corner, holding the scarf Peter gave me. I clutched it tightly and stayed silent. The house felt so empty without Peter. No one sat by the window. No one greeted me in the morning. No one smiled at me anymore. The sun still rose. The meals were still made. But something was missing. Something big. Something kind. After Peter passed away, the house felt different. It was still full of people, yet everything seemed quiet. No one sat in the sunny corner near the window. No one asked for tea in the mornings. No one looked forward to seeing me walk into the room. Each day I moved through the house like a shadow. I cooked, did the laundry, and carried on with the chores. But I felt completely empty inside. Alex didn't change. If anything, he became even more distant. He stayed out later and later. Sometimes he came home without saying a single word. He walked straight to his room, shut the door and stayed there. One night, I left his dinner on the table. He came home around midnight. I woke up when I heard the door. I went to check if he had eaten. The plate was still there, cold and untouched. The next morning I asked him gently, "Is something wrong?" He looked at me and said, "Nothing's wrong. I just want space." Then he walked out. He didn't even look at me. I stood in the kitchen holding the untouched plate. I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. A few days later, I noticed his phone lying open on the table. There was a message on the screen. It was from a woman. I didn't read everything. Just one sentence. "I missed last night." Froze. My hands turned cold. My chest felt heavy. I slowly put the phone down and stepped outside. I sat on the back steps for a long time. The wind was cold. My eyes were full of tears, but I didn't cry. I just sat there still and silent. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Peter. What would he say if he were still here? Would he tell me to stay strong? Would he tell me to walk away? I didn't know. But I missed him more than ever. He was the only one who ever made that house feel like home. I began thinking about my life, everything I had given, Gave my time. Gave my care. Gave my love. But I received nothing in return. No respect, no appreciation, not even simple kindness. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself anymore. I saw tired eyes. I saw a woman who had lost her light. I wanted that to change. The next morning I packed a small bag. Just a few clothes, a book, and the blue scarf Peter had given me. I walked out of the house without saying a word. No one stopped me. No one asked where I was going. I went to stay with a friend across town. Her name was Grace. She lived alone and worked at a small shop. She welcomed me with open arms. "Stay as long as you need," she said. I hugged her and cried, for the first time in many days. Grace gave me a small room with a soft bed. It was warm and peaceful. That night, I sat on the bed holding Peter's scarf. I looked out the window and saw the stars. I whispered, "Thank you, Peter. Thank you for everything." And then I finally slept. In the days that followed, I started to feel different. Grace helped me find a job at a small bakery. I worked in the mornings, baking bread and making coffee. The people there were kind. They smiled and asked how my day was. No one shouted. No one made me feel unimportant. For the first time in years, I felt free. I didn't tell Alex where I was. He never called. He never asked. Maybe he was relieved I had left. Maybe he already had someone else. But I stopped wondering. I stopped waiting. All I wanted was peace. One Sunday, Grace and I went to the park. The sun was warm. Children played. People laughed. I sat on a bench and felt the breeze on my face. I closed my eyes and smiled. I wasn't rich. I didn't have a big house. I had no husband beside me. But I felt calm. Felt alive. I thought about Peter often. I missed our quiet morning talks. I missed his gentle voice. But I carried him in my heart. Every kind word. Every warm smile. Every act of care. He gave me something no one else in that family ever had. Unconditional love. Without expecting anything in return. Weeks passed. I worked hard. Saved money. I started taking evening classes. I wanted to learn. I wanted to rebuild my life. Slowly, I began to dream again. I thought about opening a small tea shop, just like the ones Peter used to love. One day, I went back to the old house. I didn't go inside. I just stood near the front gate. I looked at the window where Peter used to sit. It was closed. The chair was gone. The light was off. I placed a small flower on the ground and whispered, "I'll be okay. I'll live the life you wanted for me." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.